Okay, so you want to own a self-storage facility. You drive past one every morning. One steel building. No kitchen, no dining room, no staff arguing behind a counter. Tenants bring their own stuff. They lock their own doors. They leave. Rent arrives on the first of the month. You open nothing. You cook nothing. You serve nothing. You collect. Sounds passive. It is not passive. A 60,000 square foot facility costs $3.6 million to build. That is before you buy the land underneath it. Construction for a single-story facility runs $50 to $65 per square foot. Multi-story climbs to $90 to $130 per square foot. Those numbers do not include land. They do not include site preparation. Site development alone adds $4.25 to $8 per square foot. Permits run $1,000 to $10,000 depending on your municipality. Then come the soft costs. Engineering, architecture, surveys, environmental studies, insurance during construction, legal fees for zoning. A modest facility, 10,000 square feet, totals $400,000 to $750,000. That is a small facility. The competitive standard today is 120,000 to 150,000 net rentable square feet. At $90 to $120 per square foot in construction alone, that is north of $10 million. Before land, you could skip the build entirely. You could buy an existing facility, but capitalization rates run 5.0% to 7.5%. That means buyers are paying 13 to 20 times a facility's annual net income. You are purchasing someone else's rent roll at a premium, and you inherit their tenants at their current rates. Most people stop calculating right here. The price of the table is not the building. The building is the cheapest part. The price of the table is the 18 to 24 months of debt service you pay before the building earns enough to cover itself. But the debt is only the start, because the building comes with baggage that does not appear on the listing sheet. Self-storage requires commercial or industrial zoning. That classification follows the land permanently. If the business fails, you cannot pivot. You cannot convert the parcel to residential. You cannot build apartments. Your exit is another storage buyer. That limits your market to one type of operator. Property taxes reassess on the purchase price, not on the seller's old basis. The tax bill resets the day you close. If the previous owner held the property for 20 years, your annual tax obligation could double overnight. That number never appeared in the seller's financials. Environmental liability transfers with the deed. If a tenant stored chemicals illegally and you never checked, the cleanup is yours. Remediation costs on contaminated commercial land can exceed the value of the property itself. And then there is the clock. A new facility in a competitive market takes 18 to 24 months to stabilize. During that window, your mortgage runs at full speed. Your occupancy does not. Every empty unit during lease-up is a compounding loss. The debt does not pause. The interest does not wait. The tax bill does not care that you only filled 40% of your units. The inherited trap is not a cost. It is a clock. It starts the day you sign. Your debt does not wait for your occupancy to catch up. So how does the money eventually arrive? It arrives in layers. And the most important one is invisible. The first layer is base rent. A standard 10 by 10 non-climate controlled unit averages $119 per month nationally. Climate controlled averages $134. Those are the published numbers. The actual move-in rate is lower. In the fourth quarter of 2025, the national average move-in rate dropped to $96.44. That is a 10.7% decline year over year. You advertise one number, you collect a smaller one. The second layer is tenant insurance. Many facilities require a protection plan. The tenant pays $10 to $15 per month. The facility keeps most of that as margin. It is not optional for the tenant. It is structured as a condition of the lease. The third layer is retail. Locks, boxes, packing tape, moving supplies sold at the front desk. Small revenue, high margin. It adds up across hundreds of tenants. The fourth layer is fees, late fees, administrative fees, gate access fees. Each one is modest. Each one is recurring. The fifth layer is vehicle storage. RVs, boats, trailers. These units command premium rates for outdoor or covered space. They fill seasonally and empty seasonally. Read that number again. The sixth layer is the one almost nobody pictures. Lien auctions. When a tenant stops paying, every state grants the facility a statutory right. You send the required notices, you wait the required period, then you cut the lock and auction the contents. Operators sell roughly 1% to 3% of leased spaces annually through lien sales. It is a legal foreclosure process that belongs exclusively to the self-storage industry. But none of those layers is the real revenue engine. The real engine is a mechanism called ECRI, existing customer rate increases. Self-storage leases are month to month. That gives the operator the right to raise rent on any tenant with 30 days notice. Before 2015, most operators raised rent once a year by 8 to 12%. Today, the raises are larger and more frequent. About 70% of customers rent their units online at a discounted web rate. The remaining 30% rent on-site at a higher rate. Once a tenant moves in, the ECRI cycle begins. In the fourth quarter of 2024, Public Storage's average in-place rate was 74% higher than its average move-in rate. The tenant who moved in at $96 is now paying $167, and fewer than 5% of tenants vacate within 30 days of a rate increase. Here is where the math turns into magic. A $10 per month increase across 200 tenants generates $24,000 per year. At a 6% cap rate, that $24,000 adds $400,000 to your facility's sale price. Revenue and asset value are the same lever. You are not raising rent. You are manufacturing equity. The rent is not the revenue. The raise is the revenue. Now you see why every operator runs ECRIs, but running them costs more than the postage on the notice letters. Operating expenses at a well-run facility consume 30% to 40% of gross revenue. That sounds lean. It is lean. Self-storage has the lowest operating expense ratio in commercial real estate. Multifamily runs 45% to 55%. The gap is the pitch, but the individual lines still bleed. Steel building maintenance runs 10 cents to 25 cents per square foot per year. Insurance premiums are climbing. Property taxes are climbing. Payroll is not going backward. And those are the predictable costs. The unpredictable cost is liability. In 2018, an Arizona storage facility paid $80,000 to settle a wrongful sale lawsuit. The tenant had paid on time for 8 years. The facility auctioned the tenant's belongings anyway. The initial insurance offer was $10,000. The settlement landed at 8 times that. Courts have awarded damages exceeding $300,000 for a single incident, and most standard commercial policies exclude coverage during the lien sale process. A separate, specialized policy is required. The lien auction, your sixth revenue stream, is also your most expensive legal exposure. Then there is the cost nobody tracks on a spreadsheet. Marketing. Your tenants found you online. Competing for those clicks means bidding against REITs with national ad budgets. When occupancy dips below 80%, ad spend spikes. And the tenants you buy with that spend are the ones who booked the discounted web rate. You pay to acquire a customer at a loss. Then you ECRI them toward profit. If they leave before the raises catch up, you lost twice. The cost ledger is not a list of bills. It is the gap between what you spend to fill the building and what the building earns before you raise the rent. And here is the trap almost nobody sees coming. The month-to-month lease is sold as the owner's superpower. No long-term contracts. No tenant protections. Raise rent whenever you want. Evict with 30 days notice. Total control. But the weapon is symmetric. Your tenant can leave with that same 30 days notice, and the REIT across the street wields the weapon better than you do. The major REITs advertise units at artificially low move-in rates. First month free, dollar specials, web rate discounts. They capture demand through scale advertising. They absorb the resulting churn through sheer volume. Then they ECRI the survivors aggressively, sometimes doubling the rate within a year. Independent operators cannot match the ad spend. They cannot absorb the churn. In secondary and tertiary markets, churned customers do not come back. They are gone for good. Marketing costs spiral. Digital ads, promotions, staff time, the expenses compound, and the tenants you lose were the ones already inside your ECRI cycle. Replacements start at the bottom again. Public Storage's in-place rate was 74% higher than its move-in rate. This is legal. This is normal. And now the regulatory wall has arrived. In February 2026, New York City filed its first lawsuit against a self-storage company. The Department of Consumer and Worker Protection brought the case. The target was extra space storage. The allegation, bait and switch pricing, low introductory rates followed by sharp increases, hidden late fees. In some cases, rents doubled within a year. One tenant's unit jumped from $264 to $344 per month without notice. In July 2026, Extra Space settled for $1.7 million. $1 million went to customer restitution. Under Local Law 171, effective August 2026, all self-storage facilities in New York City must be licensed. California's SB 709 now mandates pricing disclosures down to font size and color. The weapon that built the industry is the weapon regulators are now targeting. The flexibility that lets you raise rent is the same flexibility that lets every tenant walk. And the pricing strategy that maximizes your revenue is the one that just generated a landmark consumer protection lawsuit. The month-to-month lease is not your flexibility, it is theirs. Every tenant you have is one notification away from gone. So how did this industry end up built on a steel box and a cancelable contract? The answer starts in an oil field. In 1964, a man named Russ Williams had a problem. Williams worked in the oil industry in West Texas. He and his stepson Bob Munn needed somewhere to store boats and oil field equipment. Williams had seen apartments with 4 to 10 garages sharing common walls. He applied the concept. They built A1 You Store It, You Lock It, You Carry the Key in Odessa, Texas. Cinder blocks, corrugated steel, a wooden overhead door. The facility was marketed to oil companies needing quick access storage for emergency equipment. The format worked. Other facilities followed across the Sun Belt, but the concept remained regional until one real estate developer saw it differently. Here is where it gets interesting. On August 14, 1972, B. Wayne Hughes and Kenneth Volk Jr. launched Private Storage Spaces, Inc. in El Cajon, California. Each invested $25,000. Total startup capital, $50,000. Their plan was to use the storage units as temporary income while waiting to redevelop the land underneath. The first warehouse broke even within 3 months. Hughes never redeveloped. He renamed the company Public Storage. By 1989, the company operated 1,000 locations. By 2005, it joined the S&P 500. Today, it operates over 3,000 facilities across 40 states. The product, a steel box with a roll-up door, has not changed since Williams built the first one in 1964. The building was never the point. Hughes discovered that month-to-month contracts on the cheapest possible structure produced returns that made permanent real estate look slow. The design secret is that there is no design. The emptiness is the design. The design secret is that the building was never meant to last. The lease was. But what happens when an owner builds the opposite? When someone pours technology and complexity into a format that rewards nothing but cheap simplicity? Most people never think about this part. In 2009, a developer named Anthony Pugliese III opened a facility in Coconut Creek, Florida, 20 miles north of Fort Lauderdale, 72,000 square feet. It was called Safe and Secure Automated Self-Storage Systems. This was not a steel box with a roll-up door. Computers and robotics assisted customers. The facility offered 24-hour access with full power backup. High-tech security monitoring ran continuously. It was reportedly the first automated self-storage facility in the world. In 2010, it won the Outstanding Green Facility Award from Mini Storage Messenger. Pugliese carried an $11.7 million mortgage with Branch Banking and Trust Company. The technology was expensive, the operating costs were high, the robotics required maintenance that steel doors do not. The facility looked like the future of storage. It was not the future of storage. Branch Banking and Trust won a $12.8 million foreclosure judgment, the mortgage plus interest and fees. The award-winning automated facility went to public auction roughly 2 years after it opened. Pugliese subsequently faced foreclosure on an apartment complex in Coconut Creek, then a commercial project in Sebastian, then a site in Martin County. He eventually began serving a 6-month jail sentence in Palm Beach County related to a separate legal matter. The most advanced self-storage facility ever built became an auction listing in 24 months. The facilities that survived, the ones that became a $44 billion industry, all built the same thing Russ Williams built in 1964, the cheapest box that holds a lock. Pugliese did not fail because his facility was bad. He failed because his facility was good. The industry does not reward good buildings. It rewards cheap ones. And that is what this whole business actually is. There are more self-storage facilities in the United States than McDonald's, Starbucks, and Subway locations combined. Over 50,000 facilities. Over 2.1 billion square feet of rentable space. 1 in 10 American households rents a unit. Nearly 70% of demand is driven by 4 events: death, divorce, dislocation, downsizing. The industry calls them the 4 Ds. The business generates $44 billion a year. It has outperformed every major commercial real estate sector over the past 2 decades. The average net profit margin runs around 41%. The pitch is simple: low overhead, recurring revenue, no toilets to fix. But national occupancy has softened to 77%. In 2025 alone, the industry added 55.1 million square feet of new supply. That is enough to cover Central Park. Move-in rates fell 10.7% year over year. And the core revenue strategy, discount the entry, then raise the rent, just triggered a landmark lawsuit and new licensing requirements. The building does not appreciate. Steel depreciates. The land barely moves. The only thing that grows is the rate. And the rate only grows if the tenant stays. And the tenant only stays because moving a storage unit is harder than absorbing a 10% increase. The entire business model runs on one bet. Your tenant's inertia will outlast your rate increases. And that is what you are actually looking at. You are not owning a storage facility. You are owning a rate-raising machine bolted to a slab of dirt, and the rate across the street owns a faster one.